Week, so working from home.
Yes, working from home, all of us, entire team, everyone.
Mumbai,
Uh,
Mumbai, I guess is total deadlock, right?
it's totally deadlocked. It's totally locked down. We
Okay.
had to host a lot of groceries and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, I forgot to store some groceries. So my wife has been harassing me. Why didn't you?
There's a lot of panic around
Too
everywhere.
much.
Right?
To be very
Yeah.
honest, it's a lot of panic around. I think, but then again, I think it's for the good to keep the lockdown. The more the distancing, the better.
Yeah. I totally understand. So, how do you see this impacting the financial industry? What's your?
Very bad.
Mm-hmm,
Very bad. To be very honest, very bad.
mm-hmm,
So right now we are so the most impact will be that with with the goods, with productions stopping, with services sector being unable to cater to customers, and with the slowing down in the business, not only in India but globally as a whole. We are yet to see a lot more to come in the few days. So now, if it is a matter of a week, that's understandable. But if it continues, if it definitely continues for a little longer, then definitely we will see something bad, something bad. It will
mm-hmm,
lead to a lot of job losses. It will lead to a lot of stagnation in our growth. Already, our GDP is down. So,
mm-hmm,
mm, uh, and this will have a very direct impact on the lending business of the bank. Collections may take a hit. So mm, uh, we really don't know where we are going. But I think
mm-hmm,
right now the most concern is, I think, as Mr. Aditya said, the most concern is now about the health report of.
mm-hmm,
So that's the thing we are focusing on. We will take.
mm-hmm.
I think everyone has to take one step at a time. We can't help it. This is something beyond our control.
Right. On top of that, Yes Bank, this thing will also have an, I think, chain effect on
Yes,
other.
Yes Bank did had effect. Yes Bank did had an effect. Chalo, at least what I can say is that most banks, stable banks, have come forward to to restructure the bank, the Yes Bank entirely, recapitalize it, and banking operations have begun. Now,
Mm,
all now the thing is that with so much uncertainty, we all need to see where this is going actually.
mm. Good, Kavik. Sorry, we just got into discussion on industry as a whole. But before that, why don't you just give a brief about yourself?
Okay, so I have been working in the banking and financial industries for it's been around 12 years. I started working somewhere around 2008. Started my career with Bajaj Allianz, and then moved on to IDBI Bank. I was involved in a lot of projects. That is the first place where I got into payments, digital payments, and
Mm,
I think that was the first time I realized what I like doing actually.
mm,
More than the traditional pen and paper banking, I think the digital payments attracted me much more. And since then, it did not become my job; it more of become my passion.
mm,
And I've been since then doing research, looking into the digital aspects of entire banking as a whole. And I worked on a lot of digital banking projects. Moved on to IDFC Bank. Had a very small stint there. Um, Worked on cash management services, payments and collections.
mm,
A little part of trade finance as well.
mm,
Uh, Help. I joined IDFC at the time when it was opening up. It had just opened and began its operation like a month, so things were not in place, and it was a huge task setting up, things up. So was involved in that initiatives as well. From there, moving on to Shivalik Bank was one of those small cooperative banks based out of North India. but I think Shivalik was the first time when I got into handling a lot wide arena in banking, like everything
mm,
from microfinance to lending to payments to core banking systems. And I think microfinance interested me really very much. I will say that is the first time that I actually worked hands-on, and I enjoyed thoroughly working on digitization of the entire microfinance journey,
mm,
both from the banking perspective as well as from the customer's perspective. And
mm,
being a driver of financial inclusion, I think it was one of the key, one of the key things that also helped me to change my entire thought process around how digital financial inclusion can be even more strengthened in the country.
mm.
Uh, I think I worked for Shivalik and moved to India Bulls now. India Bulls, I think, still one of my most cherished stints with India Bulls was creating the Dhani app. So
Okay.
our Dhani app was it was one of the key changes in the market in terms of digital lending, wherein a
Mm,
customer can come aboard and get a loan in a matter of 3 minutes actually.
mm,
And but creating the app, the thoughts that went behind it, the energy, the teamwork, and everything, it was a
mm,
fantastic journey actually. It was a fantastic
mm.
journey from having nothing to creating a Dhani app. And as a as a project head leading the entire project, it was very fulfilling. It was something very fulfilling for me personally.
Mm.
Uh, and I think we not only created Dhani app for retail customers, we also created a Dhani SME app targeted
Okay.
for SME lending for
Mhm.
Dhani SME customers. Um, and that is again one of the places where I think I gained the most knowledge about digital lending, and since then I've been trying to apply it to wherever I work in digital. I had a very
Uh,
brief stint with, and then had a very brief stint with Bandhan Bank, heading the digital product.
Wow. Wow. Sounds good. So you have a very wide experience. You started with insurance and then worked with into microfinance, then uh, digitization of digital lending, SME, right? So when you see 10 years back, right, and vis-a-vis today, the way banking operates or the lending operates, you talked about the payment digitization of payments, right? That was the first project, I guess, right? In the banking, right? So
Banking.
yeah. So from then on, if you see that, and today the industry, when I say banking, I mean fintechs also, and neo banks, challenger banks, and and even the payment banks and wallets and all that. So what so a lot has changed, right? So
Right.
you sitting on the in the bank's IT, right? uh,
Okay.
what are your comments on that, like uh, what kind of journey it has been, and how do you see it going, and
Okay.
also,
Uh,
yeah.
hmm, uh,
Yeah.
okay. So yes, since the time I started working
Mm,
initially,
mm.
so I've always been more on the product and the business side.
Okay.
Understand, and but there comes a big but. But
Mm,
the thing is that when I started banking first,
mm,
we necessarily did not need to know about technology. To be very honest,
ah, yeah.
uh, 2 years down the line,
uh
technology became an essential part of driving business.
mm, yeah.
So I think the what has most changed now is that banking is no longer just a vanilla banking where people can come in and just work their way out.
Mm,
Technology has become a key DNA for each and every person working in the banking. industry.
Just give
And
me a minute.
yeah, sure,
Just sorry, sir.
sure.
Sorry. Let's
No
start.
worries. No, I understand.
Uh, so
Yeah,
you were sharing something, yeah. So you,
yeah.
you were
So
talking about,
I was
yeah.
yeah. So I was saying that. So when we started banking, I don't think we needed to know about technology. That
Hmm,
was a headache for the IT guys, for the IT
hmm,
department, so called.
hmm,
But standing today,
hmm,
if you do not know technology, or
hmm,
if you do not, I will not say no, let me rephrase it. If you do not understand about
hmm,
how technology works,
hmm,
especially how APIs work, how the
hmm,
digital environment works,
hmm,
you cannot possibly uh, do, or you cannot possibly perform in banking. From an employee's perspective, it is very important because we need to understand how different systems work, what are the challenges, what are the things we need more, what are the capabilities that need to be added,
hmm,
how to handle those challenges, what are the steps to mitigate them. These
hmm,
things have changed over time.
hmm,
For example, when I started banking, we were still in the MICR phase,
hmm, hmm, hmm.
MICR check clearing.
Right.
I think my first project in terms of payments, in such a
Hmm,
way, if I would put it that way, was
hmm.
handling the check truncation system implementation.
That used to be a big thing, you know. I still remember,
Huge
in
thing.
yeah, lending, presenting the checks, keeping PDCs, and managing the PDCs. I was involved in HDFC and ICICI implementations in those days, and it used to be like PDC used to be very important element of lending. So yeah,
Exactly.
and today,
So,
hmm,
and not only lending, if you look at the cash management
hmm,
services,
right,
the entire cash management services runs on check collections and payment. The
right,
check collection, not entire, but a huge part of it is on check collection
right,
and payment, on
yes,
issuance of dividends and everything. Now,
right,
processing the checks, I think when I was in IDBI, we spent at least I think the entire day at back end operations. People always have a understanding that, oh, ops guys are so relaxed.
hmm,
I'm so sorry, it's not the truth. I think we hardly got time to read because with more than 25,000 check clearings happening in a day, and all of the MICR,
hmm,
manually doing the entries, manually
hmm,
doing the encoding, that the
hmm,
magnetic strip encoding of
right,
the amount. So it was a different ball game altogether.
hmm,
Now
hmm,
CTS came into play, but the
hmm,
toughest time and the biggest challenge, and at the same time the greatest learnings were during the transition phase, because that is the most
hmm,
challenging.
right,
And so
right,
transitioning from MICR to CTS, and then again
hmm,
completely doing away with MICR and moving into a CTS phase, that I think was the first time I think I got an exposure and developed an interest how digital payments can work.
hmm,
Moving on to there, I started with the NSCH project. The
hmm,
NSCH is again the similar thing. You talk about ECS mandate. So ECS
hmm,
is now out. You have
hmm,
a
yeah,
NSCH mandate,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and now
yeah,
you have INACH
hmm,
electronically.
right,
So if
right,
you see, the entire ecosystem
and
has changed. So
and
essentially,
in
the
this,
principles have remained the same. The
yeah, but it
principles have
all
remained the
within the
same.
period of 7 to 8 years, we are talking about all that we are talking
Very
about 10
small.
years, right? Yeah, in 10 years,
Yes.
right? So other day, this reminds me, other day I was talking to CIO of one of the top NBFCs, and he said, we are not the financial institution which uses technology. The way we see ourselves is we are a technology company that provides financial services. So so which is a total shift
Right.
in looking at the things, right? So
It's a total shift.
yeah, so and what do you think? I mean, this change, the transition or the change, uh, is going to, my feel is that it is even going to be the faster, is much faster in the coming couple of years, right? So what what do you think about it?
Okay, so I think over the last 2 years or
Hmm.
2.5 to 3 years, the change has been more rapid.
Hmm. Right.
So it was anyways technology was taking over banking,
Hmm. Hmm.
but now is no longer taking over. It has already taken over banking.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now all banks
Hmm.
give any size, be it Wells Fargo, be it HSBC, be it Citi, everyone around the globe,
Hmm.
be it JP Morgan, be it HDFC Bank for that matter, ICICI Bank, you'll see everyone is now less of I will say banker, more of a technology center. It's less of a bank and
Hmm.
more of a technology center, and they are
Right.
catering to the customers with their financial services. But that is
Right.
the need of the day, where,
Right.
and especially with open banking
Hmm.
and evolution of new banking models and new business models in the market, especially with
Hmm.
the entrance of non banking players like fintech.
Fintech and new banks.
It is the
Yeah.
call of the day. It is the call
Hmm.
of the day. I mean, it's you just have to survive.
Hmm. So how do you see the open banking adoption in India? Is it, where is it? Is it in the initiation phase, or and are we adapting the open banking as a country, or as the financial institutions, as quick as we should, or we are moving slow on that? And how do you see uh, the the banking or financial industry world in the banking, open, in a environment where open banking is become kind of a norm or a standard?
Okay, okay. So see, first
And what are
before
the
moving,
challenges in implementing the open banking? Yeah, sorry.
yeah. So to be very honest, before moving on to all these things, first thing we need to understand about open banking. So what essentially open banking is.
Hmm.
Uh, so in a very simple statement, if I would like to say in a one statement, then open banking is more about access to data.
Hmm. Right.
Access
Right.
to data. Now,
Okay.
every bank has customers, a
Hmm.
lot of customers. Now,
Hmm.
these customers, everyone's records are there in the traditional banking systems and softwares and transactions. Getting access to this data by a third party outside the banking domain, that is
Avik,
essentially what is
Avik, I think you will have
going.
to
Yeah.
repeat. There was some
Hello.
time internet lag. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I missed the last part because there was some lag in internet. Yeah.
Okay. No problem. So, in case of open banking, as I said, what we need to understand is open banking is more about getting access to data.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, well, it is not the only thing, but it is one of the primary pillars of open banking.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
every bank has a lot of customers, and the data
Right.
of these customers, the transaction data, be the personal data of these customers, are stored in various systems of the bank. And
Right.
this is something that can only be accessed by people within the bank. But
Right.
now imagine people or players from outside the banking or
Hmm.
outside a particular bank trying to access this data. So
Right.
that is where the open banking, or I would say the API banking, is coming into
Hmm.
picture.
Hmm.
So, and what is essentially also true about API banking is that uh, see, we as customers need to give access
Hmm.
or permission to these
Hmm.
third-party players to access our
Hmm.
data.
Right.
And that is something that we already give. For example, the no sooner that you install an application on your mobile phone, it
Hmm.
asks you for a number of permissions,
Yeah.
and we give those
Right.
permissions.
Right. Right.
So in that way.
Right.
Now,
Hmm.
in India, however, see in Europe, there's a very strong data policy, data
Hmm.
protection, privacy policy. In
Hmm.
India, we are slowly approaching that.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, for example, if you consider Aadhaar, so when initially Aadhaar came into play,
Mm-hmm.
people would give their Aadhaar IDs, Aadhaar numbers, and fintechs and all who actually created the business models entirely around
Mm-hmm.
the way the Aadhaar works and the way Aadhaar you can use Aadhaar to authenticate a person's identity and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that got a bit disrupted when the court came out saying that no, you cannot use exactly, you cannot use this Aadhaar number for that. And then,
Yeah.
then again, you came up with a new way to access this information through giving consent to
Mm-hmm.
give an OTP, you give consent,
Mm-hmm.
and also that you cannot see the entire Aadhaar number. It will be masked or creating a virtual ID. So,
Mm-hmm.
so see, the thing is that going forward, we will see evolution of these accesses to third parties.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
another thing is that we will also see that how banks or how fintech players are able to, what are the different ways in which they are able to access and use this data. So
Mm-hmm.
open banking creates the opportunity for these fintech players to not only use the data but also offer targeted services or customers customized and tailored services to the customer. And
Right.
that is around where we will see a lot of how there's a lot of innovation taking place.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you have heard of a platform called Open,
Mm-hmm.
then you have heard of Instant Pay. So these platforms are really doing great in terms of what we call as typical neo banking. So in a
Right.
way, they are right. So they are able to offer the
Mm-hmm.
services, a lot of services to the
Mm-hmm.
customers, the capabilities which the bank do not have. So banks are essentially partnering with them in offering
Mm-hmm.
these capabilities to their customer.
Right.
So it would be a
Right.
win-win for both.
Okay.
The challenge, if I come to the challenges, I think the greatest challenges in terms of API banking and open banking are, you know, first, understanding as to how we can utilize the data.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, creating APIs and understanding what APIs exactly to create. And the
Mm-hmm.
third is, I will say, how to access this
Mm-hmm.
data and at the same time ensure information
Mm-hmm.
security. I think,
Yeah.
while talking about API banking, digital banking, and everything, we always tend to leave out infosec and
Mm-hmm.
privacy and concerns. But I
Mm-hmm.
think information security is going to play a key role and has to be the center point around which this evolves. At the
Okay.
same time, while ensuring that you do not disrupt the customer experience.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Very true.
challenge.
Very true. Yeah. So, two thoughts that come to my mind. One is these new banks and fintech companies. Uh, do you see them as a challenge to the bank, in the sense that a lot of business going out from these from banks to these? For example, let's say any industry, remittance you talk about, payments industry you talk about, or even lending you talk about, uh, so you uh, so do you see that as a challenge, or to the banks, and uh, and if it is, then what is the how can bank compete and with these new fintech players coming in, and what are the challenges in that?
Okay. See, be it neobanks or
Hmm.
yeah,
Fintech.
fintechs who are primarily neobanks. So see, to be very honest, neobanks are actually defined as players who are 100% digital
Hmm.
and offer 100% digital banking services.
Right.
In India, in India, that is not possible because there are a lot of regulatory constraints around it.
Hmm.
You cannot
Hmm.
become a 100% digital bank.
But then,
Uh,
sorry, but
yeah,
then uh, government, as of now, RBI has not given any specific this thing to neo banks. So, as I understand, today's neo banks are tying up with some banks and providing the services, right? It is only,
that's exactly my point I'm
yeah,
driving at.
but it is only a matter of time when they will get their own license to, right?
Exactly. So
So
I was coming to that, that,
uh,
in India as of now, we do not have a neo bank, to be very honest,
right,
in terms
yeah,
of what we define neo bank, because it is
yeah,
supposed to be a 100% digital bank. So
right,
what, but there's a but here. But, these players who are sort of, I can say, to be aspiring neo banks, what they have is a complete tech capability
mm,
which helps them to provide
mm,
these services in a much better fashion, to evolve much
mm,
quicker, to scale up
mhm,
much
mhm,
easily. And that is the reason that now banks are partnering with them,
right,
because it's a win-win for both.
mm, mm,
Disruption, yes. If they come, it will be 100. It will lead to a lot of disruption in the banking system and the ecosystem as a whole.
mm,
However, whether bank will be disrupted or not, or financial services will be disrupted or not, it completely depends upon the player's outlook.
mm,
If you are willing to understand the importance and the threat, and if you're willing to go ahead with a collaborative strategy, then
mm,
definitely you will not be disrupted to that
mm,
extent in which you would have been.
mm,
But,
mm,
yeah, well, if you choose to stay behind, then yes, it will be only a matter of time that you get disrupted.
mm.
I mean,
So basically,
uh,
what you're trying to say is banks need to move fast and they need to adapt very quickly. Is that is what you're trying to say?
definitely,
Yeah, agree.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. See, to be very honest, this is a, as I told you earlier once, we are living in a shared economy.
Mm, mm,
Here you may not have, and in sharing economy, the greatest, I will say, the boon of the sharing economy is that we are able to share our capabilities with each other to ensure that we not only survive,
mm,
but also we sustain
mm, and thrive.
and
And
thrive.
thrive. Yeah, because
And
then,
thrive, of course, not only sustain,
yeah, uh,
sustain and thrive.
yeah,
So, and having said that, just taking two small examples, talk
mm,
about open banking. So
mm,
while open banking, I think Yes Bank had been one of the pioneers in open banking, or
yeah,
API banking, I will say, API
yeah,
banking, having given exposing their APIs for other third-party players, for corporates
mm,
to integrate
mm,
into their ERP systems, so that they can do a lot of work very quickly in a very
mm,
hassle-free manner.
right,
And there are also innovative, I would say there are also innovative revenue models for API banking. I think there are right now, to be very honest, even though there are a lot of business models that can come up, but most commonly there are 5 to 6 API monetization strategies that people use.
mm,
Second is Yes Bank first came up. ICICI just launched at a huge scale of 250
mm,
plus APIs,
mm,
which starts from basic building blocks
mm,
like verification of PAN number,
mm,
verification of PAN number to your personal details, and then moves on to your bank statements,
mm,
account balance, transaction statements, and everything.
mm. Okay,
So,
yeah,
so these things, this thing, and HDFC, then RBL also has it. DCB Bank is also doing it. So it's not that they are not happening. It's already happening in the industry. People are already taking measures. It's just,
mm,
to be very honest, it's just how fast you evolve
mm, mm, mm,
is the will actually demarcate or will actually determine how well. ICICI again was one of the pioneers who tied up with open platform
mm,
to
mm,
offer the very customized services like accounting, for tax filing, GST based taxation to their customers, SME customers.
mm,
So which was
mm,
very unique. and now I think Open is already tied up with more than 11 banks. So
Hmm.
things are happening in this program. There are not many examples, but things have already started in this direction, and
Yeah.
more financial services are moving towards that. But
Okay.
then again, we are only when typically it comes to financial services, we only talk of banks. But I think it
Hmm.
is also time for the NBFCs to gear up.
Yeah. 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 So, great. On the lending front, okay. So typically, there was a time when someone will fill up the application form, and it used to take a week or a couple of days at least before he could get this loan. And banks and NBFCs were directly lending, right? Uh, now, and there was a particular segment of the whole population who had the access to lend to the loans, right? Uh, with technology coming up and industry evolving, uh, how do you see lending as a segment shaping up? And in this change kind of time of change, uh, what will be the key uh, drivers uh, which will define the future leaders in the lending space?
Okay, see, using pen and paper application forms
Hmm.
has actually become just old school.
Yeah,
I
agree.
mean, uh, especially since my days at be Shivalik, be at
Mm,
India Bulls,
mm,
we have been entirely focusing our energies on building a app or a platform which will digitally enable the customer, which will enable the customer to digitally obtain a loan. And
right,
we were successful in creating a product.
right.
There are many such platforms. You can
Hmm.
start with MoneyTap,
Mm,
and you can move on to even the new entrants players in the market.
mm,
Now, digital lending is going to be driving the entire scenario
mm,
in terms of lending, entire space.
right. Mm,
And one more thing about digital lending is that we do not look at it just I will at least I would not directly just look at it as a lending business, but I
mm,
will also look at it as one of the key drivers of financial inclusion,
right, right, right.
especially with emerging technologies like
Mm,
artificial intelligence, machine learning.
mm, mm,
I think it is, you know, and it is becoming essential for most banks or most players to leverage these
mm, right,
and and use these capabilities to build what we typically call as alternate credit assessment model.
right, right, right.
And you already have access to customers' data,
Mm, mm,
a lot of unstructured data,
mm,
which these technologies and capabilities which will help you to
mm,
make a structure out of it to
mm,
derive key insights.
mm.
So from a traditional lending, wherein you need a certain set of documents
Salaries,
and data,
salary statement, bank statement, this, that,
yeah. So
Yeah.
and you're moving into a much more innovative space, a much more different ecosystem actually,
Mm,
wherein you're looking at a lot of other traditional, other not traditional, other data points, which are
yeah,
able to give you the a much more accurate result.
right,
So
right.
digital lending as a digital lending, well, it is already has arrived and it is there to stay. It's not going away.
So, uh, so as I understand the current scenario in India, uh, application processing part to a great extent has been automated. uh, uh, People are using credit scorecards and all. Banks are using credit scorecards and all. Alternate data, or let's say auto approval. We have pre-approved loans for quite some time, but instant loans, so to say, for example, for SMEs or individuals, wherein I'm talking about, say, for example, uh, uh, iFinance, or what is the name of that Alibaba's bank,
Right.
where they claim like they have certain billions of portfolio, and they up to 150,000 loans they disburse
Right.
within
Right.
2 minutes, 5 minutes. So how far India is in that uh, from
Okay.
yeah,
I understand your point. So there
yeah.
are two things I would like to say over here.
Hmm,
Number one, see, in terms of building capabilities
hmm,
to offer these type of services, or I will
hmm,
say instant loan,
hmm,
or loan in maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
hmm.
Well, building the capabilities is not a
Problem.
challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
We know how to do it. We know what needs to be done. We know what the customer
Hmm,
wants. I wouldn't say
hmm,
we know, but yes, we have an idea as what the customer wants. We put ourselves in the customer's place to understand what we want, what
hmm,
anybody would want.
hmm,
The challenges come first in terms of regulatory environment.
hmm,
So while personal loans, for example,
hmm,
just the easiest product and the most
hmm,
sought after product in the market, personal loan.
hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can give personal loan to a customer in a completely digital fashion without
Hmm,
any paperwork, but
hmm.
only up to 60,000.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Now, if I use eKYC, Aadhaar,
Hmm,
and these services to
hmm, hmm,
authenticate a customer and these things, I can, and everything is right, I can go ahead and give him, but only 60,000.
hmm,
Now, this only 60,000 limit is
hmm.
being, is a, it's a parameter being set by the regulatory authorities.
Post eKYC, even when eKYC is done. Yeah.
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 So
Huh.
now, but in order to give a greater amount,
Hmm,
I have to ensure that I complete the full KYC,
hmm, hmm, hmm.
not just the
Yeah.
EK. So
Yeah.
that is again, see, there is one thing, one of the regulatory thing.
Hmm,
Come to secured lending,
hmm, hmm.
like
Title
home,
verification.
home loans,
Hmm,
talk about auto loans.
hmm,
So in
hmm,
here, the ecosystem becomes a little more complex
hmm,
because here
hmm,
we are not just dealing with the customer, we are dealing with customer. Sometimes we are dealing with dealers, sometimes we are dealing with builders, we are dealing with brokers, and there are a lot of parties who are connected over
hmm,
here.
hmm, hmm,
We do not have the capabilities right now in
hmm,
the ecosystem as a whole
hmm, hmm,
to ensure that we are able to do everything in a digital fashion.
hmm,
What we try to do over here is we try to ensure as much as possible to make it easier for the customer and to give a better experience to the customer.
hmm,
We
hmm.
can do the journey digitally up to a
Hmm.
certain extent, but post
Right.
that, a physical leg kicks in. For
Yeah.
example, there is no way
Hmm,
to apply online
hmm,
at an RTO.
hmm, hmm.
That you have to walk down, you have to apply, you have to bring back the papers, you have to show me the papers.
Right.
So, these disconnects,
Hmm,
small
hmm,
disconnects,
hmm,
these are what are impeding 100% digital journey.
hmm,
But
hmm.
having said that, the way we are progressing, we will soon find ourselves in such an ecosystem where it is possible.
So
Maybe it
I
will take 3, 4 years.
yeah. So I take example of, for example, Oyo, right, or for example
Right,
Paytm, right.
right,
So right, look at the kind of services Paytm is offering on their platform, and everywhere there is an integration, right, with the service provider, right. You can
right.
book airlines, you can book hotels, you can book, you know, uh, whatnot. I mean, today
What's
everything
not?
can be done. You can buy gold, right, on Paytm. So
Digital gold, yeah.
yeah. So, or for example, oh, you look at, see how they have and how rapidly they have, at all the hotels you see today, Oyo is there. Most of the hotels Oyo is there, right? So while I understand what you're saying, I totally agree with you. Uh, and regulatory is something uh, that we are little restricted by them. But other than that, uh, I see even in banking, for example, today if you go and buy something on uh, uh, e-commerce site, and I get a instant EMI facility from certain banks, and it is not card EMI against card; it is direct loan, right?
Right.
So, right, so things are happening. So,
Right.
right, uh,
Right.
so
Things are happening. Definitely, they are
yeah,
happening. At
yeah,
least there is the intent. See, what
hmm,
first
right,
it has to start with the intent.
huh,
So trust
huh,
me, as bankers who would like to have a good lending business, we have
hmm.
the full intent.
Hmm. But when I speak to business guys, sometime when it comes to underwriting, or loan sanctioning, auto approval is something which business guys or risk guys are still averse to. Uh, um, uh, so, or for example, if you talk about moving away from scorecards to AIML models, which are more like black boxes, you know so I somehow sometimes I've seen there is a resistance, like no, there has to be some manual leg to it, and which means increased
See, I
data
will tell you something.
and
I will tell you
yeah.
something. I understand where you're coming from, but I will tell you
Hmm,
something. All these
hmm,
are less due to the need and more due to the regulatory,
hmm,
not the regulatory, more due to the traditional mindset.
hmm, hmm.
So
That is
it is
what I wanted
not
to say. Yeah.
necessarily you always need to do it, but
Hmm.
sometimes you do it just because it has been happening for so long.
Right. 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 So that
And
is what
that is that is where
Hmm,
if okay, so to quote to really actually quote
hmm,
Mr. Brett King,
hmm,
that is where
hmm.
first principles thinking come into play, I will say.
Yeah. 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 So exactly, I was just saying what you're saying, what you paraphrasing what you said, that actually technology is not the problem. The problem is other sides, regulatory ecosystem, and the mindset that we just talked about, because
Yes,
people are resistant to change, apprehensive about the change. Yeah.
definitely. And one more thing I would
Hmm,
like to just sort of really add over here is that it is so I won't say that everyone is wrong, but then again, when we look at talk about data or we
hmm,
talk about alternate data, so
hmm,
what we have to understand again is that data, well, is available, but what is the
hmm,
quality of data that is available?
hmm, hmm.
So while
Agreed.
you are
Yeah.
using AI and ML and technologies and big data and everything,
Hmm,
that is
hmm.
not having the tools, capabilities, and these things are not the problem. But getting some quality data is also important. So we also need to,
Right.
so from to be very fair to the risk guys, to the business guys, what really concerns everyone, including every one of us,
Hmm,
is that the data that we are getting, how much quality is there to it?
hmm,
If there's a really good quality to it,
hmm,
then
hmm,
anyone will go ahead and you
hmm,
know.
hmm,
But
hmm.
that is somewhere we still have a sort of you know binding, and also the fact that you we cannot just compare
Hmm,
every ecosystem with the
hmm.
Indian ecosystem. We are really a very diverse
Very
country
unique.
with a lot of diversity in a lot of aspects. So
Hmm,
we have to take into factor a lot of things.
hmm, hmm.
But yes, slowly,
Yeah.
we definitely will be moving forward to that area or to
Hmm,
that, you know, place one day where these things will become not only easier, but,
hmm.
well, also mandatory, I will say, in a way.
Okay.
It will be very soon,
Okay.
just to take
Uh,
some time.
yeah. So uh, but then I also think in this diversity and complexity lies a huge opportunity, financial inclusion, so many, there's a vast majority, uh, uh, of people who don't have access to even the bank accounts, and their and and the next is obviously the loans and all. Similarly, SME, it's a huge segment, but considering the in India, there's a large unorganized sector. They are not. They don't have that easily accessible funds, right? So amongst this complexity, we also are sitting on a huge opportunity. Uh, uh,
Yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, true. Exactly. You're true.
yeah.
Completely right. We're sitting on a lot of opportunity, especially in terms, or especially as far as SMEs are concerned.
Hmm,
And
hmm,
to be very honest, it is my personal opinion that
hmm,
yes, going forward at some place, at some point,
hmm,
neobanks are really
hmm,
going to drive SME growth.
hmm, hmm. Yeah. And I think especially when they're giving other services, they also get a lot of insight into the business of the
Yes, definitely.
yeah,
See, nowadays you don't just offer one service. It's more about bundling of services,
right,
goods,
right,
products, and everything.
yeah,
You bundle up your overall. You have a lot. So it's just just to be very candid. It's like a buffet.
hmm,
You have
hmm,
a lot of food, everything.
hmm,
You just
hmm,
can now you can bundle up different
hmm.
items and dishes and create them
Create
into
uh,
one type of buffet. This is a second type of buffet. You can choose
uh,
one. You can choose two. So
hmm,
choices are there. Everything is there. What, as I told earlier, what will help the SMEs and
hmm,
what the neobanks will do is that with their really lean and agile model, it will
hmm,
be easier for them to help
hmm,
out the SMEs.
to
And
drive the change and to
there
drive the
again,
change. Hmm,
yes, and then again, there comes in the fact that banks who do that
hmm.
and who go into this will definitely benefit from it. And
So, Avik, I was asking you about
yeah,
how do you see the financial services industry in 2025, especially in India?
okay. Uh, so 2025, we will see what I feel is that
Hmm,
um, we will see a lot of democratization has already happened in
mm-hmm,
terms of data.
mm-hmm,
Uh, I also envisage a situation wherein the sharing of uh, information and data across the ecosystem, be it between banks and fintechs, between different banks,
hmm,
between customers and fintech, uh, or complete other non-related banks,
hmm,
this will open up hugely.
hmm,
This will
hmm,
open up hugely.
hmm,
And the business models, as we know today, we are going to see a lot more evolution in those
hmm,
business models,
hmm,
especially when it comes to sharing, when it comes to
hmm,
revenue
hmm,
sharing. So, yes, going forward, revenue sharing is going to be one of the key parameters. Uh, Another thing in terms of payments, well, in terms of payments, we had evolved a lot. But
hmm,
I think what we are going to see more in coming is that voice-based banking, if I may dare to say
hmm,
so.
hmm.
Voice-based banking is something that uh, I would
Wha-
like to see also. Yeah. So
Okay,
that's why I'm saying that.
elaborate on that bit. Elaborate a
Uh,
bit on that.
okay, Alexa,
Huh. Okay.
uh,
Huh.
I want to take a loan.
Okay. 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 Got it. Yeah.
So, and from there, the journey, we have to define the journey. I have to
Hmm,
think about how it goes. But definitely, voice-based banking is
hmm.
something that I would like to see. But
Yeah.
well, we already have
Hmm,
voice-based payments.
hmm,
Alexa, pay my bill.
hmm,
Alexa, just transfer money.
hmm,
Someone. Or it can be Siri also. I must not
hmm,
talk about Alexa. Siri will get offended. So,
hmm,
uh,
hmm,
voice-based is one thing, and yes, I think what more have will happen. So we have been only talking about talking a lot about retail, haven't
mm,
really focused on a lot on corporate. So in terms of corporate banking, in the
mm,
international banking, global banking, if the global banking platform, what you would see is the much more
mm,
proliferation
mm,
of blockchain
mm, mm,
and the augmentation in
mm,
the trade and for trade finance
mm,
and
mm.
other allied services
Okay.
for everyone.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think we will be moving toward a more trusted ecosystem,
Okay. Okay.
which will help us to bank easier. Will help the corporates also bank easier.
Get it. So,
That's what.
and in the end, I hope the end consumer and the customer stands to gain in the sense that he will have lot many choices, uh, and things will be easier for them at, you know,
So I think
uh,
loyalty is something
overall.
very tricky right now. In
Uh,
today's scenario, loyalty is very tricky actually.
mm, yeah, yeah.
And but
The more the
then again,
choices, it is more the choices.
yes,
It is.
but there is one thing
Mm,
which still holds true as a principle,
mm,
as an
mm,
underlying principle, which is that the one player or
mm,
any player who is able to offer the
mm,
best experience
mm.
will win.
Right. So there will always be this thing. Peop- Banks will have to become, or financial institutions will have to become
Be it
customer
financial
friendly.
institution, be it fintechs, be it NBFCs, anyone who is able to offer the
Hmm.
best experience
Service.
is
Yeah.
going to win the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are ready to pay more. They just need a good experience. So experience
Hmm.
is still going to be centric and is
Hmm.
still going to run the show even in 2025.
Okay. Wonderful. It was nice talking to you, Avik, and
It was great talking
thank
to
you
you
for,
too.
yeah. Uh, okay. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.